Welcome to Fantasy Football Hub. Today I'm joined by FPL expert Holly Shand to have a look at her current FPL draft. Now, Holly has countless finishes inside the top 100k and a couple inside the top 10k, as well as her very own FPL YouTube channel. So who better to have on? Holly, an absolute pleasure. Are you ready to build your team?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jack. I can't wait to get stuck into this one.
No worries. Very excited to see who you've got in your starting 11. Without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Doing this, as always, on Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool. If you want to do this and get your team rated for free, link is down below. Holly, get us started. Who is in goal?
So I always try and spend as little as possible on the goalkeeper slot. At the minute, I've got Pickford in there. I do feel like he's a bit of a placeholder right now in case a better option emerges, maybe in terms of if we get some moves in the transfer window, we could get a better 4.5 million keeper. But Pickford at the moment, I feel like I'm playing the fixtures. Obviously, there's save point potential as well as clean sheet potential and bonus. And Everton have got quite a nice run of long-term fixtures, which means I'm quite happy to pick Pickford and plug him in for the first few weeks of the season until that first wildcard time.
Nice. Pickford is such an interesting one because you'd expect him to do well in a Dyche team, but towards the back end of last season, his points per game really wasn't that good. Guys, if you sign up to the site, now doing an unbelievable 50% off deal, you can see these Opta stats. And if we look at points per game in the last few appearances, it's not the best, remembering there were doubles here. You know, just 3 points per appearance in the last few game weeks. Okay then, now the question is, Holly, are you pairing Pickford up with a rotating keeper or not?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
I've got Virginia in at the moment as the backup keeper for now.
Sure. Okay, let's move on to the defence.
Yeah, so first place to go, obviously, it's Trent Alexander-Arnold. I expected the price rise. I still think he's absolutely worth it at 8 million. Have to bear in mind just how prolific he was at the back end of the season when he moved into that inverted wing-back role. I think it was 7 attacking returns in 10. Like, he's playing as a midfielder. He's out of position. And I just feel like he's a must-have. I think he could make an absolute mockery of his price tag. I think he'll outscore a lot of midfielders that are priced at the same price point. We just need to see a few more clean sheets from Liverpool this season for him to really excel.
Yeah, it's funny. He's in a lot of teams, 32% right now. Fergie, in last episode, was a bit shocked that he's in so many FPL experts teams, but I agree. I think he's a great pick. Okay, who you got next?
So I've gone with Arsenal's Gabriel. I really
Nice.
like him as a pick because great fixtures to start the season for Arsenal. And I know a lot of the time with FPL and defenders, we want to go with full-backs over centre-backs. But Gabriel's got that goal threat. He's got 10 Premier League goals over 3 seasons at Arsenal. So you take that and hope that you get a few goals out of him this season. He's always going up for set pieces, at corners, free kicks. And we know how good Arsenal are at scoring from those set pieces. So yeah, I was surprised that he's 0.5 million cheaper than White.
Yeah, that pricing makes absolutely no sense to me. It seems like great value there. Okay, now, I want to know how many defenders you're going with starting 11. Majority are doing 3 at the back. How about you?
Yeah, I'm absolutely the same. So Estepinian is the final space in my defence. Brighton's fixtures look really good, and obviously we know what he can deliver in terms of attacking threat and clean sheets, and particularly in the run-in of last season, he was getting goals and assists. He was seeming to be a bit more advanced than we've seen in previous games. There was like a little bit of a shift in De Zerbi's setup that really benefited him, so I'm really hopeful that he can come up with the goods again this season.
Okay, that is the defence then. Let's leave the 2 bench defenders for now and continue on with the starting 11. Who have you got in midfield?
First name in midfield had to be Bruno Fernandes. Like 8.5 million, that price point is like phenomenal, really. If you think, I think it was 3 seasons ago, he was the highest scoring player in the game, averaging an attacking return every game. I think a lot of the reason why he's maybe seen a price drop is that he underperformed last season, but part of that was probably to do with his teammates' poor finishing.
Yeah.
I think he had an XA of like 18 and only got 10 assists. So, you know, there's bags of potential from him. I think he hit the woodwork 5 or 6 times as well. And United only got 3 penalties last season. So it's all stacking up to say that Fernandes can, you know, really explode this season in terms of his points. And it's just those 2 home games in the first 3 for United meant that I couldn't not go with him. He's one of my favourite fantasy options of all time.
And when he's on fire and doing well and just dominating games in a fantasy perspective, he's such a joy to own. Completely agree. Someone that I would love to have in my team as well. well. The question is, though, are you going with another Man United midfielder?
Yeah, I am. I've gone for the double up. Rashford hasn't been in some of my early drafts, but I am looking at the double up right now because those fixtures, we know how Rashford did so well at Old Trafford last season. And when you've got Wolves at home and Nottingham Forest at home in the first 3 fixtures, you just think that means goals for Rashford. He could potentially be playing out of position as a striker. We don't know yet. We'll have to see what happens with United in the window. But, he just loves those home comforts and he's a proven goal scorer. And we just need to take advantage of those fixtures. And the beauty is, if the form drops off when the fixtures turn, you can basically jump to any other midfielder if you've got Rashford from the start.
Very, very important that. Who knows? Someone like a Son, who is not in a lot of teams right now, could come to the fore. And at that price point, very, very manoeuvrable. Those predicted points are an absolute joke. Just a sea of green. Those first 3, as you mentioned, just look phenomenal. Going to be really hard to go without him. Okay, next up in midfield, who you got?
Bit controversial, this one. I've got Odegaard in at the minute over Saka.
Okay. Wow.
I like how explosive Odegaard can be. I think he was behind just Haaland and Rashford for double-digit hauls last season, which is really, really impressive. There's not that much when you look in the underlying data to kind of split Saka and Odegaard. Obviously, Saka's got the penalties, which is why a lot of managers are going with him. Slight concern that he didn't feature in one of the early pre-season friendlies, kind of got pulled out of the squad with a little bit of a knock. So I obviously need to see whether he's available. And I am keeping an eye on Saka's ownership as well, because it's, they're both at the same price, but Saka at the moment is in around 50% of teams and Odegaard's in a lot less. So kind of, even though I've got this preconceived idea that I prefer Odegaard to Saka in FPL, and he was the one that we all wanted at the end of last season over Saka, I also need to bear in mind that ownership, because, Saka could really punish me if I get this call wrong.
I don't see any problem with the Odegaard pick at all. Obviously, there is a risk there with the ownership of Saka being so high that at the start of the season, that could be tough if he explodes. But he stays on the pitch longer. He got more points last season. I don't say anything wrong with it. Maybe it's a shame that he's priced at the same as Saka, but I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, and I could choose to double up still on the Arsenal midfielders. Gone with United at the moment, but it's one of those things that I'm considering at the moment.
Okay, so then no Saka confirmed. Who's up next?
So I've got Matoma in as my Brighton midfielder. I want a slice of the Brighton attack, given how well they performed last season. Obviously, price hikes all round, but I did think it could be worse. Matoma, I like him as an FPL asset because he's a stat buster. He doesn't really fly in the underlying numbers if you compare him to March, for example, but you just know that at any point he can come up with a goal or an assist. It's a little bit of a difficult one with him because he did kind of underperform in the last few game weeks of last season, so I do want to see a little bit of form from him in pre-season. Obviously, if March is the one that's firing in pre-season, then I could easily make the switch, but at the moment, Matoma's got the ownership as well, and, he's just a really fun FPL asset to own.
It's a funny one, 1 goal and 3 assists in his last 10 game weeks.
Yeah.
It's not ideal, but as you say, he's a sort of player that can just cut in and curl one from 25 yards and you wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, there's a reason why his ownership's almost up at 40%. Okay, are you going with a 5th starting midfielder or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think 3-5-2 is the formation to aim to set up in this season. So that's what I'm going for. And, there's lots of options, but Mbomo's caught my eye as a really great option to consider from game week 1. Brentford have got fantastic fixtures. Obviously, he's got that reclassification to a midfielder, which helps. A little bit more expensive than I was hoping he'd come in at. But I think in the absence of Tony, he can really deliver in the first half of the season. And we saw that come to the fore. He was one of the top performing FPL assets in the last 10 game weeks of last season, and even more so in the final 3 game weeks when Tony was out of the team. So I think he's a player that's not going to miss Tony in the Brentford setup. Obviously, Tony is going to be a huge miss to Brentford as a whole, but I think he's one that, I didn't have him in my team initially, but having investigated the data of how well he performs without Tony, it just seemed like a no-brainer to get him in.
Yeah, got the data up on screen now. Those last 3-4 game weeks, as you say, crazy. Almost 8 points per appearance in the absence of Tony. Who's to say that wouldn't continue with these opening fixtures? That really good, super strong home fixtures, which is all you can really hope for from a Brentford team that do so well at home. Okay, that rounds off the midfield then. Let's get into the forwards.
Yeah, so Erling Haaland, I think it'd be FPL suicide if you didn't go with him from game week 1. City have got the best fixtures. He's the best goal scorer the Premier League has ever seen. We're basically going to be permanently captaining him over the course of the season. So he's an absolute lock. I guess the only downside in this draft is that he's my only Man City player, and I have been toying with including another City asset somewhere, maybe a Grealish or a Foden in midfield, or Stones in defence. It's just the rotation risk, but Haaland, he's going to start every game, so yeah, he's got to be in.
Yeah, completely agree. Next up, who you got?
So I've gone with Gabriel Jesus as the final spot in my front line. It's really difficult, this second forward slot. There's not a lot of choice, but Jesus at 8 million, he definitely allows flexibility to swap to any other forward, because there's a gulf, isn't there? There's Haaland, there's Kane, and then there's no one until you get down to 8 mil. Again, capitalising on those early fixtures for Arsenal, I think he could do really well. He actually performed really well towards the tail end of last season when no one was really picking him. And I think that's why he's gone under the radar for the start of this season, because we didn't have a spare forward slot to get a Jesus in at the end of last season. We had, maybe double City forwards, double Newcastle forwards. So yeah, I think he could perform really well. He started last season really well. It's just how much we see of him dropping deeper. It'll be interesting to see how Havertz really slots into that Arsenal midfield in their pre-season games, something I'm going to be looking out for. But there are a few other options at this price point, and even dropping down could give me a few more funds to spread around the rest of my squad. But Jesus looks really good just as a placeholder right now.
Yeah, I mean, similar to what you said about Rashford, if you have to drop down, there are so many options. I mean, look how many 7.5 options there are, and other 8 million strikers as well. Obviously, price change dependent. Okay, so that is the first 11 then. Round us off, just give us the bench. Let's see who you got.
Yeah, so I was trying to get as much of the funds as possible into my 11, so the bench is not great. I've got Bayer and Bell as my 4 million defenders, who both blank in game week 2, which is going to give me absolutely zero cover on the bench now.
Yeah.
So that's something that needs looking at. And I've gone with Sam Surridge as my backup striker for now. Hopefully there's a 4.5 million one that emerges that has a hope of even getting on the pitch every game week. But yeah, it's very bleak in terms of the bench options right now. So I've gone all in on the 11, and hopefully game week 2 is kind to me at this rate.
Absolutely. Okay then, that is the team. And let me tell you, Holly, it's looking very, very good indeed. Do you have an idea of what team rating percentage your team has got on Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool? What would you be happy with?
I mean, I take like 95. I think that's like kind of like as good as it's going to get.
Well, I don't know, because it's giving 99%. 99% wow. Team rating.
I've completed it. I can just put my feet up for the next 3 weeks.
There you go. You don't have to do anything else. Sensational stuff. That is with the team optimized. Haaland captain, I presume you go game week 1. So there you go. Even without the likes of a Saka in there, doesn't really matter. You can have other players that aren't as high owned. Game week 2 will be interesting. I do concede if one of your starting 11 doesn't play, because it's not you're relying on Surridge off the bench there, which I don't know about that. But apart from that, 99% rating propels you right to the top of the leaderboard compared to other FPL guests that we've had on. Very impressive stuff.
Brilliant. I'm happy with that. I'll take that for sure.
Right then, so 99% team rating, but there's a 1% there that could be improved. Now, Fantasy Football Hub offers an amazing feature that will run throughout the season and, of course, in pre-season, called Recommended Transfers. It's based on their incredible AI, and it gives out some interesting ideas. Look, Holly, obviously your team is very, very good, clearly already, but how about this for some ideas? Right. You mentioned yourself a lack of City coverage. You mentioned Stones. The algorithm is saying get Stones in for Gabriel. Now, obviously, to fund that, it's an interesting one, but it's Trent out for Zinchenko. So doubling up on that Arsenal defence, which then allows Edison to come in for your sub-goalie, Virginia. I guess he could also come in for Pickford, and that would give you another 0.5. So there it is. Edison and Stones and Zinchenko in to reshape the defence, with Virginia, Gabriel and Trent leaving. What do you think about that?
Obviously, that goalkeeper spot needs some work, and I'm sure at 4.5 million, I'll be able to find an alternative to Pickford that can maybe give me that extra edge. I prefer Gabriel over Zinchenko every day of the week. I know Zinchenko's a fullback, but he's not had that great fitness record over the last season. He tends to be in and out of the team, whereas Gabriel, you kind of know that he's going to play in, week out. He's reliable. And obviously Trent's going nowhere. So I think probably Pickford to another 4.5 million goalkeeper will probably be more or less what I'm going to use those recommended transfers for.
Yeah, it's interesting. The AI really loves the City defence. And I can't argue against that because they have been really good statistically. It's just that goal every game that they seem to be conceding last year, which was well, enjoyable as a non-City defence owner, but just kind of strange of anything. What do you think about that?
Well, they kind of, at the start of the season, City can be quite consistent in terms of clean sheets. I know I started last season with Kyle Walker and he was getting 6 points week in, week out, which was really helpful. I feel like they can kind of play without pressure in the first half of the season. So I think probably a City defender would be nice. I think Stones as well, if he can maybe move into that midfield role, could be a really nice option to go for. We know that, you know, he likes a headed goal in the box. So at 5.5, I think I could probably jiggle funds around a little bit to try and get a Stones into my defence. It might mean losing that double up on United attackers though, which
do you want to do that?
No. Or I could
so.
downgrade Jesus to get some more funds there to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever you do, it's looking pretty good right now. 99% team rating. As always, guys, if you want to get your team rated for absolutely free, link down below. And then if you want to take advantage of the other amazing features that Fantasy Football Hub have to offer, for example, those recommended AI transfers, you can sign up right now. 50% off. And also, if you don't win your mini league this season, you will get all your money back. How about that for an offer? Link to all of that is down below. Holly, thank you very much. We might get you back on before the start of the season to see an updated draft, but for now, it's looking pretty good with 99%.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to it.